Person one loves person two. Guess what? Shenanigans ensue. Person one hates person two. Guess what? Still shenanigans ensue. Person one fake dates person two. Guess what? You guessed it. Shenanigans ensue. Co-host one reports to co-host two. What's the name of the show? Shenanigans ensue. Yeah. Hello, I'm Jasmine.
And I'm Jane.
And welcome to Shenanigans Ensue.
A podcast where we can do whatever we want, baby. We ain't lost.
Each episode we'll watch a rom-com and discuss its merit as a member of the rom-com genre.
We'll cover well-worn classics, new releases, hidden gems, and everything in between.
We'll look at the chemistry between the leads, the use of tropes, and of course, the shenanigans!
Yay, shenanigans! And don't forget the pressing question that we all want the answer to. If this movie was a cheese, what kind of cheese would it be?
I know, it's the most important question. I ask myself every night.
It's truly the only question why anyone's tuning in.
I know. So, last episode, we looked at 13 Going on 30, an early 2000s classic. And for this episode, we're gonna go a little bit further back to a 90s classic, Pretty Woman!
Yay! Now, this movie was released in 1990, so if it's been a while since you've done a rewatch, here's a quick synopsis.
After her roommate Kit blows all of their rent money on buying drugs, sex worker Vivian needs to land a big spender quickly.
She seems to get a lucky break when she's picked up by lost and lonely businessman Edward, who needs directions.
After some banter, she accepts his proposition of hiring her for a week to keep him company and accompany him to work events.
Shenanigans ensue!
So, first things first, this movie has incredible dialogue.
Such great dialogue, and not just for the main characters, but the supporting and even the featured characters have amazing dialogue too.
They really do. Oh man. Did you write some of your favorite quotes? Because I definitely wrote some favorite quotes.
I did, yes.
So one of my favorite things right off the top, there is a murdered sex worker in an alley, and the show opens with the discovery of this woman and how the lifestyle and where she is currently is quite dangerous for Vivian.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's police officers there, and the police officers go up to a few people who are taking pictures and ask, "Hey, are you with the press?" And the couple says, "No, we're from Florida." So they're just tourists.
So funny.
What? And that's within the first 2-3 minutes or
The opening scene is just rich. There's so much happening and it's funny.
It really is. It's so good. And they make so many dick jokes. I watched this as a kid. Mm-hmm. I don't remember all those dick jokes.
I don't remember a lot watching this movie when I was a kid. My favorite bit, I guess, throughout the movie that just has, to me, such a perfect little ending with a couplet of lines is the whole Vivian is the niece of Edward. I think there's one from Richard Gere. He says, "She's not my niece, and how do I know that? Because I'm an only child."
It's just, yes.
But that's actually not my favorite pair of lines. My favorite is when she goes to the department store because Mr. Thompson hooks her up and she meets Bridget, who's just lovely. And then Vivian says, "Hey, Bridge, he's not really my uncle." And then Bridge just says so deadpan, "They never are, dear." I just love that little couplet of lines.
I loved that so much. That woman steals the show in that moment.
Amazing.
Such fun lines everywhere.
You know what's so funny, talking about Bridget a little more, is that I noticed very early on Mr. Thompson, who also plays Joe in The Princess Diaries, and this woman, and I'm so sorry, I've forgotten to look up her name, but she is also in The Princess Diaries too.
Oh.
She plays the villain's wife or something.
I love that.
Yeah. Because the director, Gary Marshall, also directed The Princess Diaries.
I was going to say, it's usually the same production house.
Yeah, exactly. And there are quite a few actors who are also in The Princess Diaries.
Oh my goodness. And some of my other top jokes were, I don't want a beck and call girl. That one was really good. And also, can we just like take note of how much of a delight it was when they go to the opera and she looks and she sees the pit and she says, "Oh, there's a band."
I thought you were going
to the orchestra.
I thought you were going to talk about the other line where the elderly woman after the opera.
That one's good too. After the opera, it was so good. I almost peed myself.
I loved it. So funny.
And she always delivers them so genuinely. It's so fun.
So genuinely. Like, you can totally understand why Julia Roberts won over Hollywood after this role. Because what a delight.
Seriously.
This movie's so full of little throwaway lines that are just so funny. Like, just the little bit of when they're in the department store after Vivian had the whole moment with the classic line of "big mistake, huge." And the store manager, I guess, just the bit about all the Marys, like all the store assistants are some sort of Mary Kate, Mary Ashley. I just found it so funny.
They really did such a good job with that stuff. Oh, and I think this is my last one, and this one is a little rough. It's a little rougher of a joke, but it was still really funny. When he first propositions that she moves to New York, and that he's going to put her up in a nice apartment and pay for everything. He said something to the effect of, "We've got to get you off the streets," which is just really insulting.
Yeah.
But her response is so good. The writing for that, her response is, "That's just geography." Yes, girl.
So many great little zippy lines, and I really appreciate that basically everyone in the entire cast, even unnamed characters, just had some really fun lines.
Yeah, I was really impressed by that. I wasn't thinking about that before we went to start. I wasn't thinking, oh, this is going to have an excellent script for writing and for character development.
Yeah, completely.
Some of this character work and development is so much fun. And also big shout out to Jason Alexander, who is always so great, even when he's being a creep.
And was he ever a creep in this movie?
Oh, goodness. Okay, and so that's a good segue to some of the bad. Yeah, before we get into the shenanigans, let's talk about some of the issues we had with this movie.
So, the movie was originally meant to be a lot darker, but then was rewritten to be a rom-com.
So yeah, what that means is tonally you can sometimes feel that it was meant to be something different, especially because the shift happened so late in the creative process.
Yeah, and I think we both concur we felt that a little bit when watching the movie.
Yeah, you can feel it. I knew going in what the movie's about. I've seen it before when I was a kid, and I also know now as an adult that it was meant to have a different ending, so I kind of was maybe more aware of that going through it.
Yeah, the last time I watched this movie as well, I was a child, and I think I half watched it and didn't really understand it at the time. So definitely this time going in, I knew as well there was meant to be a darker ending, but yeah, I found it interesting going and knowing that.
Yeah, I guess now that we all know, let's just kind of dive in, I guess. So this was always a Disney film, which is incredibly surprising considering the fact that the main character and like the main push of the story it's the story of this sex worker.
It's wild. Like, how on earth did Disney come into possession of this movie? I'm really not sure.
I don't remember the details for that part, but yeah, it's just so interesting that they would even pick this up in the first place.
Yeah, and especially because in the original ending of the movie, Vivian and Kit are supposed to be on a bus heading to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Which is...
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, and for everyone else, we think that's the reason why Disney bought it.
And then they were like, wait a minute, Disney's part of a sad ending. We can't have that in a Disney movie. And they decided to change it to a happier ending.
I think that, I'm pretty sure, I could be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure it changed because they put it in front of a test audience. And the original ending had him leaving her where he found her on the street and basically giving her a stack of money and her throwing the money back at him. And
wow, that's...
Yeah. And then they get on the bus to go to Disney World. And from what I remember, they didn't change the ending until they ran it in front of a test audience.
What? It got that far in the creative process?
Yeah, like it was done. And again, maybe I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty sure this is the one where they ran the ending for a test audience. And then the audience hated the fact that they broke up so badly that they couldn't keep the ending.
All I'd read was that, and I may be misremembering, but that a producer thought that this was probably not the best ending for the movie, and Disney execs agreed with it. I didn't come across anything about test audiences, but I believe it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he was supposed to throw her out of the car. She was never going to see him again.
Brutal ending to what is now considered to be like a classic rom-com. That's a brutal original ending.
I know, right? Especially like for Richard Greer. Where you can't do him dirty like that.
I love that you said Richard Greer because Judy Greer is still on our mind.
That's gotta be why. I'm leaving it.
Has to be. Amazing. We love Judy Greer, in case that wasn't abundantly obvious in the first episode. Anyway.
So yeah.
In addition, Vivian was also supposed to be a coke addict, which is also a very dark element. He was going to pay her additional money to stay clean for the week that she was with him.
Oh, yikes.
Mm-hmm. Which isn't dangerous at all to, like, go cold turkey.
No. Oh, gosh. Okay, so before we get into, like, the fun stuff, like, obviously there's plenty of shenanigans, and the dialogue and the writing in this movie is pretty top tier, not gonna lie.
It's so much fun.
It's so much fun. But there's obviously so many issues with the context and the sex work and everything that's going on, especially given the time period. So I guess, yeah, like, before we totally jump into it, like, let's maybe talk about some of those things that came up.
Yeah, so we are both of the opinion that sex work is real work and people deserve to be treated fairly and ethically. And for a lot of people, this is just their regular jobs. It's like an office job. They're not being human trafficked. They're not forced into this career path because of really terrible things that happened in their life. It just happens to be their job. That's not the case in this movie, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. Like, technically, it is her job. It's what she's doing for work at the moment. But the context, once you get further along in the movie, you come to find out that she's not really doing it by choice, and it becomes really problematic.
Yeah, and she hasn't been doing it for very long, either.
No, so basically, you find out throughout the course of the movie, slowly but surely, that she moved to LA to pursue a man. She moves because she's in love, and then something happens, they're no longer together, and she needs to pay the bills. So her friend tells her about the sex work. She apparently cried after the first one, and it's my opinion, given the way that it's built up, that Vivian doesn't really want to be doing this work.
No,
And for me, that's hugely problematic.
Yeah.
Like, I love it for Kit. Kit's into it. Like, Kit knows what the deal is.
She's owning it.
Yeah. And really all that's happened is that poor Vivian is doing this for some money, is not really emotionally equipped to do this kind of work.
And then she goes and makes the number one mistake that you should never make, which is falling for one of the Johns.
Yep. Which happens a lot. It's hard to separate your feelings from this kind of work. But you still have to be able to tell yourself those feelings aren't real.
Especially because it happens in a week. I'm not saying you can't fall in love with someone in the course of a week, but she knows the circumstances under which she's entering this relationship. Mm-hmm. So for it to all go down in a week is just, oh, girl.
Yeah. And then the thing that makes me crazy, the thing that makes me absolutely bonkers, is that the perpetuation of the same mistake occurs at the end, where he offers to bring her to New York, and now she's going to move to a new big city all by herself, like with no support system, because he lives in New York City and he's going to put her up. And if they don't make it as a relationship, if they don't make it as a couple, then she's going to be left in a new city now with nothing and having to do the same thing over again. And that is just so unconscionable to me, that would be the moral of the story.
Yeah, it really bummed me out when I understand why you need the big romantic gesture at the end, but they don't have a conversation in terms of resolving the issue in the first place, like the issue that she had in terms of, and then what? You put me up in an apartment and then what happens to me? Like, that doesn't get spoken about.
Nope.
He just arrives at her place in a limo and that's the end. He doesn't say, like, don't worry, baby, we're in this together as a team. Of course, or whatever.
Nope.
I really actually needed a big speech from him in that end scene. That would have been a good place for the trope of a big romantic speech.
Yes.
Where he says how much he values her as a woman and, resolves the issues that they had in that last fight when she left.
I agree. That needed to happen. But also, I don't think it's Edward's fault because his trauma response to being made to climb up the fucking balcony.
This poor man has this fear of heights and is constantly putting himself or finds himself in positions of being really high up.
Yes.
It's very funny.
So she makes him climb the fire escape. I guess maybe he was doing it as a romantic gesture. Like, I'm afraid of heights. Like, let me climb up this fire escape for you. But, like, that's what? Girl, buzz him up.
Oh, goodness gracious me. Yeah, anyway. I really felt as though we could have seen Vivian's story with was he in a band, the guy she followed to LA?
I don't remember.
First, like, I feel like we could have watched that movie.
Yeah.
And then we've watched this movie with her and Edward, and then we could watch another movie set in New York of what happens to her with Edward and the next guy.
Yeah, the sequel is actually just The Runaway Bride.
Let's get into the fun stuff. We're just going to rattle off a few of the tropes and then we'll expand, talk about them a little bit more.
Okay, perfect. This movie had 3 montages.
So many montages.
There was the opening setup montage. There was the makeover montage. There was the we're dating and falling in love montage. Those are so many montages.
So many montages. All of them excellent.
Every single one a gem.
Then we had a meet cute.
A really good meet cute, by the way. We'll get into that. And then there was the falling in love with someone you're not meant to.
A grand gesture at a window.
Oh yeah, always good. Then there's the fish out of water.
The change of heart.
Sassy best friend. Love it.
Kit is amazing. And then Pretty Woman itself, which has kind of become a trope in pop culture, or at least it's referenced a lot in pop culture.
Right. Which, to be fair, is essentially just the Pygmalion.
Yes, and My Fair Lady.
Correct. So, let's go into these tropes. We already went over the montage. They don't need another little rundown. There was 3 of them. It was hilarious.
Delightful.
All right, but that meet cute.
It was very, pardon the pun, cute. What a delightful meet cute.
It really was. To have stolen your lawyer's hot rod that you can't drive.
In a town that you don't know.
Right. And, like, not to be heteronormative because most people don't know anything about cars. And to find the only woman probably within at least a 5-mile radius that knows anything about cars. But, like, to find her and be like, hey, I need directions.
It's just so random and fun, and she just kind of rolls with it as well.
Seriously. And I also just, like, love Kit being like, there you go, now you can get us the rent money, go on.
Kit is so chill. She's just like, there you go.
Off you go.
Don't complain. See? The universe provided.
Oh, we love Kit.
I want a Kit movie.
She's an absolute disaster, and she should not have spent the rent money like that. But also, she did give her a place to sleep, and, like, she can be a pretty chill lady, it seems like.
Yeah, up for her friend.
Yeah.
Especially because they don't know each other for that long.
No, and she just lets her, like, move in.
Yeah, yeah. Then we have the falling in love with someone you're not meant to. I don't know, as we've said, we sort of have a couple issues with how this is portrayed, especially the power dynamic between the two of them, given that he's employing her and there's a massive age gap between the two of them.
Between, like, the power dynamics at play plus the age difference. It's really, This is not a fun Romeo and Juliet, not meant to be.
No.
This is a...
Yeah, it's...
No.
Especially watching it now, it's just a little... Especially when he says the line of, I want you at my beck and call.
Oh,
All
yeah.
of me was just like,
Yeah.
Because, like, what are the terms of this? You know?
Yep.
Luckily for her, it ends up being pretty chilled, his definition of beck and call, but that's quite a scary phrase to utter.
Yeah, and you can kind of see her go through the process of thinking about all of that during the scene. Like, you can see her wheels turning as she's trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and then eventually coming to the realization when he doesn't try to be weird or pull anything funny over the course of the evening, and she really is allowed to stay there, then it becomes more comfortable.
Yeah, 100%. Then we go on to the grand gesture at a window.
It's no boombox, but a limo and honking that horn is pretty good.
And a rose, or a bunch of roses.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the roses.
The roses, and especially because we know he's afraid of heights, it adds a additional emotional weight.
Yes, and while I do love the use of the trope with him showing up at the window, and obviously it's well received in this case, but like, can we also talk really quick about the fact that the hotel should not be giving out people's addresses?
I have a note just about that. I was like, oh, it's all kind of creepy.
What are they thinking?
You don't know how things ended between them. Maybe it was bad, you know?
Yeah, seriously though, like, that's super unprofessional. And like, listen, Mr. Thompson is obviously a very aware individual, and so he probably knew that it would be well received. But it's very sketchy.
It is.
I know it's a hotel, so there's no like HIPAA or anything for this, but like, you still can't
But still.
be giving out personal information.
Not just personal information, where this girl lives.
Literally. Oof.
Then we have the fish out of water, which I think was done really well. Julia Roberts is so charming, but plays it so well.
Seriously.
Showing that she's the fish out of water.
And what I do appreciate is, yes, they make her feel less than for the clothes shopping, but basically never anywhere else. She holds her head high.
She does. Even at the, oh man, was it a polo match that Edward takes her to?
Yeah.
Where the women, it was really rude of her to say, oh, so this is the flavor of the month.
I know, and the way she handles it, though, she has all the power, which is so delicious. What does she say? She's just like, oh, I'm just using him for sex.
Yeah. What a good comeback.
Yeah, seriously. They were not prepared for that.
No, not at all. But I was like, that's really mean. Even if it's true, you don't have to say it to this girl. Like, she's done nothing.
Right? No, I think that, that's that weird high society thing where I think these women want their shot at him. And so perhaps by intimidating these women, they can clear the path or something. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I ain't rich.
Aren't some of them married though? I don't know. I don't remember.
They live a different life.
Entirely.
Polo.
If
I was wearing $500 shoes, I would not be on that field kicking divots.
Shoes shouldn't be $500 at all.
Well, I'm just saying, they're probably very expensive shoes, and there's no way in hell that I would be out on that field kicking divots with those shoes. Grass stains don't come out.
Then we have the sassy best friend, and as we said, how delightful is Kit. I would not want to live with her because that would stress me out, but
I know.
I think she is, as a character, very delightful.
You would just become very good at finding hiding places for your cash.
I mean, she hid it in the toilet. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good hiding place.
But I think it was their shared hiding place. They both knew it was there.
Okay, fair.
Mad funny. But I guess, yeah, Kit doesn't care. Kit's like, I've always lived here. You're new here, kid.
Yeah, I can do what I want. I'm the reason that you have money anyway. Oh, and when she's just like weirding out the employees at the hotel as well, like fogging up the
It's so fun. I
the
love
desk, and
I love them walking through the lobby of that hotel together.
and to the couple where she's like, I can't remember the number amounts, but it's X amount for some time with her, and for an additional fee, his wife can watch.
Yeah, I forgot. Oh my goodness. Oh, and then the pretty woman trope itself now. Almost like that rags to riches kind of situation. Can we talk for a minute about that big reveal?
Which one?
When she has that cocktail dress on
Oh my
and
goodness.
she's at the bar. Oh my.
Amazing.
She looks incredible. It's such a delight to see her turn and to see the whole thing with Edward walking through the hotel bar and not recognizing her at first.
And they really milk it in the best way possible by that slow turn.
Oh, yeah. And her hair is just so
gorgeous.
She looks incredible. It's really such a delight.
And it's not even the opera dress. That red dress is stunning.
That red dress. Oh, we'll talk about that dress later.
Yeah. Let's move on to some of the shenanigans.
Yes, we love the shenanigans.
Shenanigans! I keep doing that. It's so much fun.
I love it.
So much. So the premise of the movie, in and of itself, is a shenanigan. Having someone who's completely unfamiliar to certain situations. In those situations, I think one scene that's really indicative of that is the restaurant where Edward is meeting a potential seller of a company he's trying to acquire. But lots of other situations, like in the opera, at the polo field.
Oh, yeah. It's so good. Her not knowing what to do with the forks. And the charmingness of the guy whose company is going to get bought. Like, the ability for him to put her immediately at ease.
Yes. Really nice.
Was so nice.
Also, I was like, Edward, this is kind of a big risk, taking someone who you know isn't familiar with these situations for something that's really important in terms of your career, and you not giving her any kind of guidance, any kind of help.
Yeah.
Mr. Thompson teaches her.
I wonder what his play was. Like, I wonder what his expectation of that moment was.
Yeah.
Like, what do we think the character wanted to accomplish? Because he's bringing her there, what, just to be set dressing? He knows that she's got a bigger mouth than to just sit there and be pretty for him. I mean that in a good way. Like, she's just so much fun. Like, what does he expect her to do?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on in his mind at all.
Yeah, not really sure.
Anyway, the whole opening sequence, as we've sort of discussed with some of the great lines, is a delightful collection of shenanigans, from her dodging her landlord to leaving the apartment through the fire escape. It's just great.
Oh, and you know what? I think there was even another little, thinking about the montages again, that little mini almost montage when she gets to Rodeo Drive to do all of her shopping was so interesting because, like, it had all these little bits and pieces of, like, LA culture, like, look at these people on the street, look at these ladies, look at this, and then there's that convertible that drives by with the guy who has his car phone and his little kid who's got a pretend phone in the back seat. It's just, like, so many good montages and so many good shenanigans in them.
Yes, some of the unintentional shenanigans, I think, as well, comes from old technology. Just the line of Edward saying, "Oh, I miss keys," with the key card to the hotel room.
Oh, and then we've got, I know it's a shenanigan that Edward can't drive stick. I mean, I get it. He's from New York. He doesn't drive ever, I'm sure. But it's particularly bad as he's destroying that poor car's transmission.
And he's picked up one of the few people who would appreciate all of this as well. So that's just added shenanigans.
It's really true. And I know that it's gotten worse, so maybe it wasn't quite so bad in the 80s when this was set. But I know nowadays that when I walk around as a woman in my 30s, people are shocked that I can drive stick shift. It's not a thing here.
Oh, yes, I remember. In the States, it's not really a thing to drive stick.
It's not. And so, it already is pretty impressive that she can do that, and pretty silly that he can't, especially since expensive cars are such a status symbol.
Yeah. Remind me why he stole his lawyer's car? I forget.
I think that he didn't have one. Or no, his car, that's what it was, right? His car was parked behind a bunch with the valet, so he just took the lawyer's car.
Okay. Yes.
So he just wanted to get out of that party. It was miserable. He saw his ex. Oh, even that. Oh, that was such a good one at the beginning, too.
So funny.
Oh, gosh. Did you have that written down? Because I forgot exactly what the joke was, but he runs into his ex, and it turns out she's married now.
Yes.
And so, go for it, because I don't remember.
So it starts off with he's on the phone breaking up, or his girlfriend is breaking up with him, and then he runs into his ex and she's married, and he asks her, I forget her name, but he said, "Did you speak to my assistant more than you spoke to me when we were dating?" And she said, "Oh, honey, she was a bridesmaid."
And that is how they open this character up for the audience. They introduce this character as a terrible partner. That's how he's introed.
And also this line from this woman who we never see again.
Nope.
It's just so great.
Good for her. Women stick together.
She got a great friend out of a terrible relationship.
Yes. And you explained it, right? It was that he breaks up with his current girlfriend in New York because she, quote, speaks to the secretary more than him. And then that's how it's repeated through.
Oh, well, she's breaking up with him.
Right. But, yeah. Oh my goodness. It's so fun. Oh gosh, that's such a good one right at the beginning.
Yes, there's so many. Then we have the dental floss bit, where Edward thinks that Vivian is stealing something from him, I guess. But she's just gone.
Or he thinks... I thought that he thought she was hiding drugs. That she was about to take drugs in the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that he sees her hiding something. And because, I don't know, he probably doesn't have much to steal in the bathroom. But you do drugs in a bathroom, I guess.
Yeah, all of our experience of doing drugs.
Yep, so many.
But yeah, she's just flossing her teeth.
And what a joy to move on to this next shenanigan of her singing Prince in the bath with her Walkman on.
Delightful. It's just such a pure, joyful scene.
It is. It really is.
And then he like sneaks up on her as well, and she gets a fright, and she has her amazing Julia Roberts laugh.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that when they decide on the price for the week? Because she dunks her head underwater.
Yes, you're right. It is.
That was a fun scene. It's a really fun little back and forth banter.
And the original title of the movie was supposed to be 3,000, as in the $3,000 he pays her for the week. But yeah, the execs thought it sounded too much like a sci-fi movie. And they definitely have a point.
It's true. I think it would have been confusing that way.
So the name change is definitely great.
Oh, I love that little back and forth.
Yeah, that scene was really cute too. The back and forth and negotiating. And she's like, "I would have done it for 2." And then he said, "I would have paid 4."
Yep.
And then we have Edward being afraid of heights, but is always in the highest thing because, as he says, it's the best.
She asks him point blank, then why the penthouse? And it's like, because it's the best. So it's the whole pretension of doing things because it's expected or for the optics instead of actually doing the thing you want to do, which is just absurd.
It's so crazy. And then also at the opera, they're in the, what do you call it, like the box?
Those box seats, yeah.
And she's like, "I thought you're afraid of heights." And he says, "It's the best." I'm like, guy, come on.
It's the best.
Come on.
He says that a lot.
He does. But then it's a really nice payoff because the part of the big grand gesture is him climbing up the fire escape despite being afraid of heights because she's the best.
I still don't. That was silly to me. Not necessary.
No, she could have buzzed him up.
Yeah, makes for a good scene though. Let's film this on the balcony of the little fire escape. I keep calling it a balcony. I'm a New Yorker. That's a balcony. The closest thing to a balcony you're gonna get, so you use it like one.
I mean, my former roommate put about 30 plants on our balcony, so she made good use of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we used to sit with our feet hanging off the windowsill, like, towards the balcony and, like, have little picnics and stuff, so.
That's adorable.
Definitely. Oh, gosh. So that's all fun, and I'm not mad about that, but holy moly, like, buzz a guy up. And let's not forget, because I know we mentioned it earlier, but all of the Marys in the store for the shopping montage.
Just the whole shopping montage was also fun. Where Edward tells the manager, "More sucking up, please." And he goes, "You look like a very powerful man, sir." That's
Seriously?
And Edward's like, "No, her. Suck up to her."
Oh, gosh. Oh, those are all of the wonderful, beautiful, fun shenanigans. But I guess we should definitely hit some of the poopy shenanigans.
Yeah.
I'm grateful anytime that I get to watch something where Jason Alexander is either real schmucky or maybe even a total creep, or maybe both, like when he's in Seinfeld. But like, we didn't need that sexual predator moment at the end.
We really didn't.
It was an excuse, I guess, for Richard to come in and save the day, but it was just not.
But what did he even do, really? Like,
punched him, that's
yeah,
it.
I guess okay, maybe not.
Oh yeah, so I'm not in love with that part.
He interrupted what was going on. I guess why I said what did he even do is because I think I felt dissatisfied with the way he handled things with Richard.
Oh, in what way?
Probably. Like, he was more upset by the betrayal of what it seemed to be like, how dare he infringe on his property.
Yeah, doing it for the wrong reasons.
He seemed to me to be more upset about the betrayal of Edward than of the fact that he was being violent towards a woman. I think that's what bothered me a little bit about how Edward interrupted that situation.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you mean. That's definitely valid. Oh, and speaking of their relationship with one another, the two men, can I just say I was weirdly surprised. I don't know what people's moral beliefs are on this stuff. I don't really care. But this movie, in a very small way, is a little bit of an ode to Marxism. I was dying. I could not believe the conversations they were having early on in the movie when their relationship is sort of blossoming between Vivian and Edward. She asks him a bunch of questions about what he does. And so he says, I buy companies and then I sell them. And she's like, so you don't make anything. And it really wounded him. He doesn't make anything. He acquires and then chops them up and then redistributes the wealth of the whatever. And so she is really critical of it as a job. He doesn't make anything. And then later on...
Although, to be fair, Vivian doesn't make anything either.
Well, she makes people happy.
That's true. Yeah, she makes love.
She still provides a service. And, like, that's the whole, like, Marxism thing, right? She provides a service or you create something.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, Edward goes on later to the lawyer and asks, hey, why do we do this? Why do we do this? We don't make anything. And the lawyer says, we make money. And he's so put off by the fact that they don't make anything, and he's starting to come to terms with, like, how shitty this kind of is as a job, that he ends up torpedoing the deal as a result. So, like, in a very weird way, it is a small shout out to Marxism, this movie.
That's the true romance of the movies.
Yeah. Seize the means of production, I guess.
And then another one that's... I know it's meant to be sweet. This moment where previously Vivian laid out her boundaries. She said she does everything except kiss on the mouth. And then while Edward is sleeping, she goes and kisses him on the mouth. And both of us have opinions on this.
Yeah, it's just kind of creepy. It's creepy because of what I've heard previously called implied consent. If I am in a committed relationship with someone and we've been together for a while, there can be an expectation of implied consent versus they've not been together long enough that it feels necessarily okay for her to just do that.
It's less than a week.
Yeah.
It's...
and then...
like, it made me think so much. Look it up if you haven't heard of it, but it's the tea theory that explains consent, where they say that if someone has said they'd like a cup of tea, and while you've gone to make the tea, they've fallen asleep, you, as a reasonable person, would not go and try and pour the tea down their throat. That's a oversimplification, but it was very much that, because in a previous scene, Richard Gere did try to initiate a kiss, and I also have an issue with that scene because she's already set the boundary of she doesn't kiss on the mouth. I understand if in the moment maybe you're getting a vibe, you're feeling something to go in the first time, but she pulls back and then he goes in a second time.
Yep.
It's like, Edward, what are you doing?
It's not okay.
Not okay. But so one could say from that he wants tea, i.e. he wants a kiss from her. but this man is sleeping now.
Mm-hmm.
He's sleeping. There's no way to determine if he wants tea or not.
Yeah. And it's also just, we understand, we get it. The point is that she's created the rule, she's created a boundary, and that she's choosing to step over it, which is
Yes.
meant to indicate her falling in love in a real way. But this is perpetuated trauma that she keeps doing to herself with, like, that she falls in love too quickly and she can be maybe too impulsive when she falls in love. Like, all of these factors make this a very uncomfortable moment.
Yes, and I do understand in terms of the character growth and showing that she's softening and she's opening herself up. But I think you could still achieve that by having that scene when he is awake, like to watch that play out and his response to her crossing that line, you know? Like it would have been interesting to see his reaction to, oh, this is actually happening now.
Yeah.
And how he feels about that.
So I just agree with all of that. It's not the worst thing that's ever been put in a movie.
Oh, not by a long shot.
But it's not great.
No, not great.
Yeah. But before we move on to, like, the next section, one more really fun shenanigan. At the end, after they've broken up, she's left, she's getting ready to move to San Francisco, which is mad cute, by the way, because she fell in love with San Francisco because of the opera.
I love it.
I know. So, while she's getting ready and packing and everything, it's way too on the nose, but I was giddy and delighted by the fact that they used It Must Have Been Love as the song. Are you kidding me? Must have been love, but it's over now. It is all over. It's literally all over.
It's over.
And it must have been love. She wanted to kiss him. It's all over now, though. I'm moving to San Francisco. This song is too much.
It's over, but it must have been. But it was fabulous.
From now on, if people break up in a movie, I'm gonna just sing that song without anyone's permission.
But with my support.
Okay, good. Now on to the fun fab fail.
On.
So I think that we were mostly in agreement that,
Yes.
oh man, there are moments watching this movie because time has not been so kind to this movie. So there are moments where I wanted to give it a fail, but simply for the insanely fun and witty dialogue, I gotta give it a fun. It's a fun movie.
It is a fun movie. The dialogue is so much fun. The supporting and featuring cast is delightful.
Really well cast.
Really well done. And they just like throw away these really funny lines, and throwaway is a positive thing for those people who aren't actors. They're not making a meal out of it.
Right.
Just needed to clarify. And since we watched this when we were kids, I was wondering if that has perhaps also affected how we view it. And I will explain why. I grew up watching Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, My Fair Lady, and there was another movie called Bedknobs and Broomsticks. I don't know if you ever saw it.
I feel like it sounds really familiar, but I can't remember.
Now, I'd never watched this movie, and a classmate of mine when I was in high school lent me her VHS copy, and I watched it, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Mary Poppins, for example. And I wonder if that's because I was coming to it as a teenager and hadn't grown up with this movie, loving this movie, and having a special place of nostalgia and comfort. So I don't know if that's what's at play here for us.
I know, my gut instinct is to say because Julie Andrew and Dick Van Dyke, but I respect I'm just kidding. I do see where you're coming from. I think that the movies you do grow up with and the movies around you can make a big difference. I do remember it being a movie that by the time I have long-term memories that are really setting in, this was a movie that played on television regularly. So that was definitely the first time that I watched it. Was at one point my mom must have been watching it in the living room. It was playing on whatever cable channel with commercials, and maybe some of the dialogue was changed in post so that it didn't have anything too, R-rated. And I did watch it as a kid, but I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember any of the sex stuff
Neither did
at all.
I.
It was just two people falling in love.
When we were texting, and I don't know either if I just watched a heavily edited version of this movie when I was growing up. But when we were texting back and forth, I was like, wait, what? I forgot that they were intimate.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a big part of the movie. Like, there are several sex scenes.
Several.
Or at least, like, implied sex scenes with
They
the slow...
literally show her in the process of beginning a blowjob.
Yes. I wonder if this is going to be an ongoing theme that I've just rewritten movies for myself.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe they cut that stuff for the TV version. Maybe it wasn't actually present in the versions we watched.
Anyway, that whole tangent was just to say maybe we prejudiced, but this is our podcast, so...
The whole thing is.
So whatever.
Yes. Oh, goodness. So yeah, I think it's solidly a fun.
Solidly a fun.
At times kind of a fail, but the dialogue is truly, truly fun.
And some great shenanigans, some great execution of tropes.
Yeah.
Like, that was a A+ meet cute.
A+. All right, I think we're on to the fun bit.
What do you mean? This whole thing was fun.
I know, you're right. It is all fun, but now, give me the cheese, please.
Yay! Cheese.
Cheese, cheese, cheese. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
1, 2...
Pepper
Pre-crumbled
Jack.
store brand gorgonzola.
So you have another complex one. I have another basic one.
Oh my gosh, okay, I went first last time. It's your turn. I want to hear about this pepper jack.
So, the pepper jack. This is a Californian cheese, and this movie is set in California,
Ooh.
or is of California.
Smart.
The pepper jack also started off as something else, which is a Monterey jack. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, Monterey, I think.
Monterey jack. So it started off as something else, as did this movie. It was originally meant to be a lot darker. And the pepper jack element is that this movie has a little bit of spice in it. It is also used in many things. So
Ooh.
this cheese is very popular with quesadillas and burritos and such, because it's a good melting cheese. And this movie is used in many
Ooh.
other movies and rom-coms, and its origins also come from My Fair Lady and Pygmalion. So it's a very well-used, versatile cheese from California.
I love this. That was all so good. I'm going to actually have some overlap with yours. Okay, here we go.
Oh, yay! That's great. Okay, give it to me.
Yes, pre-crumbled store brand gorgonzola. Here's why. It's pre-crumbled and it's wrapped in plastic. It's accessible. It's ready to go. It's versatile, the same that you said. You can put it on a salad, but you can also melt it on a burger because much like this movie, it doesn't stand up to the heat. So, yeah, that was one of my feelings about it because under criticism, it kind of falls to pieces. But ultimately, it's a good thing to have, right? It's a good thing to have in your fridge.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's got good flavor. It's more accessible because it's the mildest of the blue cheeses. But at the end of the day, it still kind of stinks.
Wow.
You're welcome. I'm here all week.
So much shade.
And that's my cheese.
Although, I like stinky cheeses.
I do too. I just, yeah, the movie, Gorgonzola is not the stinkiest cheese, but it kind of stinks.
It's not.
I thought that was very fair.
Oh, that was so much fun. That was great.
Well, there you have it. That was our discussion of Pretty Woman.
Let us know your thoughts on the movie, any shenanigans we have missed, or what kind of cheese you think this movie is.
Yes. Please tell us if you agree, disagree, or tell us yours. You can find us on Instagram at shenanigansensuepod, or we forgot to mention it last week, but if you have more long-form thoughts, you can email us at shenanigansensue@gmail.com.
If you have a real argument for your cheese that doesn't fit into an Instagram DM, please email us.
Yes, I want to hear all about it. We hope you'll join us next time. And until then, in case we forget to tell you later, we had a real good time tonight. Bye!
Bye!